Welcome to the second episode of Manly Wood. Today I'm going to make another cutting board. However, this one is by request. I gave a family member a cutting board for Christmas a couple Christmases ago, and they liked it so much that they requested another one from me, but with some specific dimensions. So we're going to do that. This time I bought another cutting board kit. It came from Amazon. Lo and behold, I bet you didn't know Amazon sells wood. But anyway, the wood has been sitting in my shop for about a month, so it should be acclimated to the climate that is here right now. Let me go ahead and orientate the wood to make the dimensions that he's looking for. Now, it's been sitting in my garage for a while, like I said, and I haven't opened it to see what we've got. Oh, it comes with a carpenter pencil. And even when they send it to you, it's even got a little personal note. This says Happy Woodworking. It tells you what they are here. 1x2x18 hardwood board, 12 pieces. With as much wood as this came with, I can probably get 2 cutting boards out of this one, because like I said, the one that a family member wants is a specific size with some specific dimensions. He wanted it to be 18 inches long by 14 inches wide, so that it can go across his sink, and he wants the feet to be 14.5 inches apart so that it won't slide out of the sink. It'll stay in the sink like this. This is right at 18 inches, so we'll have to play with it and figure out how we want to stack our wood to get the 14 inches on the width. So they're 18 inches long by 2 inches by almost 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them, instead of making them tall this way to make a thick butchering block board, we're going to lay them out this way so that I can get the lengths that he wants. So this kit comes with walnut, cherry, and hard maple. And I have picked a design like this that I believe suits just fine. So let's get it to gluing it up. Alright, let's go ahead and get this one all glued up. As we did previously, we're just going to get them snugged up, and then we'll put our cauls on there. Alright, here we go. We've got our cauls in place, trying to keep them all flat. We've got it all clamped together to get it glued up. I had to use 4 cauls because the cauls that I had were too short to get all the way across. I think these are actually going to be flatter and a lot less work, a lot less planing having to be done on than that wood that I got from Woodcraft on that other cutting board that I did. But anyways, okay, I'm gonna let this sit overnight, and then I'll take the clamps off and the cauls off, and when I get the chance we'll run it through the planer and get it all ready to go. Alright, just like we did in the first cutting board that I made, I've got it out of the clamps. I scraped off the glue, which kind of did gouge a little bit, but that's okay, because what we have to do now is get this put on our planer sled and run it through the planer so that we have one side that is perfectly flat, and then we'll flip it over and do the other side without the planer sled to make it perfectly flat. Okay, this cutting board is a little bit bigger than my planer sled, but it's still going to work because most of the majority of the bigger size boards are on top, or being able to be supported by this. So I've stuck a couple pieces, these shims underneath it to take the rocking out of it, So now I'm gonna hot glue it down, and then we'll start running it through the planer. We're going to mark this side of the board with a pencil so that we can tell what's been removed. Alright, now it's time to remove it from the planing sled and send her through on the other side. And here's our proof that it's flat. Okay, now that we know our cutting board is completely flat, what we need to do next is trim this edge up where we're not perfectly square or they're not flat. So we'll need to trim this side up, and then we'll come over here and do this side. And we're going to trim that up on the table saw. Alright, we're over here at the table saw. And now what we need to do is raise the table saw blade up so that it's just proud of our cutting board. About just like that. Now we'll use the miter gauge here. And now we're square. Okay, time to give the corners some shape. I'm just going to take this old spray lacquer can here, line it up on these edges, just so it can give me a radius to cut, and we'll cut this on my bandsaw. I kind of botched up one of the corners, so I'm going to try and get that straight on my sander here. See what we can't do, see if we can make it turn out to looking like this one. Okay, next step is to use the round over bit on my router table here to round over the edges. Alright, now that we've got our board cut, rounded over, corners cut, edges rounded, now it's time to sand. We're going to start off with probably some 160, 180, just trying to smooth everything on out, take out anything major, take out some of this roughness on the edges, get some of the router burn out of it, and then we'll go over it with some 220. Now we're going to hit it with the 220 grit. Okay, here we are, wetting the board with the towel. Just a wet, damp towel. That's all we're doing, just to raise the grain. We're raising that grain so that it doesn't raise later when we put the mineral oil on it. We'll get this wet, let it dry, and we'll sand it down again. to sand down that grain that raised up. We'll do that with some more 220. This also gives you kind of a preview as to what the wood color is going to look like when you're finished, when you put the mineral oil on it. Okay, now that our board's dried and our grain has been raised, it's time to hit it one more time with some 220 grit sandpaper to take that raised grain and knock it on down so that we can get it smooth again. So in order to achieve our 14.5 inches from the outside to the outside of our feet, we've got a center line marked here. So we'll mark this right at 7 inches. I'm going to use the width of my ruler from the difference, the separation between the two pieces of wood. We'll make a mark at 7. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll make a mark down here at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to put the cutting board feet right on the edge of my mark of 7 inches from the center line out and 7 inches from the center line out. That's going to give us about a 1/2 inch of play for when it sits on the sink, give or take just a little bit. And I'm doing this before I put the mineral oil on it, so that way I can see my marks and can actually mark it so that I know where to go ahead and drill the holes. So I'm going to pre-drill the holes, then I will soak it in the mineral oil, and then we'll put the feet on. And basically what I did was just line the edge. So I lined the edge up here with the crow's foot mark that I marked on the end, and just kind of lined this up center of the mark this way. Okay, now that we've got our feet drilled, we can go ahead and get the mineral oil put on this bad boy after I sand that line out. Now it's time for the magic. We're going to watch this wood come alive. Now, some people soak it, some people wipe it. I don't have anything to soak it in because I don't batch these out. I don't do a whole bunch of them at a time. So I'm just pour the mineral oil on it, rub it in. I'll let it soak for a little bit, and then I'll do another coat. You can see how it's soaking it in. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I can see it with my eyes how the wood is just soaking that mineral oil in. That's a good thing. That's what we want it to do. Make sure you get around the edges. Alright, I'm going to let that soak and we'll come back and put on coat number 2. Now it's time to put the rubber feet on. One package of these gives you enough to do 3 cutting boards total. Only thing we got left to do is put on our wax. Beeswax and mineral oil. You can get that Howard's Butcher's block stuff or the cutting board stuff, same thing. I do recommend you get some of that Howard's Butcher's block cleaner, but you can get it at Home Depot. You can order it on Amazon, but you can get some of that to put on here. They've got 2 different ones. They've got one that's got a carnauba wax on it that's for bringing it back to life, bringing the shine and everything back to it, and then they've got another one that's a cleaner. I highly recommend you get that one at least to clean these with once you start using them. See how it gives it a sheen? It just makes that wood pop, stand out, look good. And our feet turned out right at about 14 inches apart by about 10.5 almost, no, about 10 3/4. So that should work perfect for the sink. can see the difference in the wood where it has the beeswax mixture along with the mineral oil. And now we'll just take and buff it out and buff it off. Alright, now I'll get it packaged up. I'm going to wrap it in some wax paper, package it in a box, and ship it on out. Thanks for watching.